What if survival meant not just finding food, fire, or shelter, but binding yourself to those beside you with invisible threads? What if the greatest weapon in a world of claw and fang was not a stone or a spear, but the bond of family? Imagine 4.8 million years ago, where the measure of life was not counted in years, but in how tightly hands held together when the night pressed in. Could those bonds formed in blood, in hunger, in shared fear, be stronger than the walls and contracts of families today? Stay with me, for this is the story of kinship written before history began. The day begins not with words, but with movement. A small band of early hominins wakes in the dim light before dawn, bodies curled together in a tangle of warmth and scent. The matriarch shifts first her shoulders, scarred by past encounters, her hair tangled with dry leaves. She rises slowly, scanning the trees, where owls fade into silence, and the first cries of monkeys ripple through the canopy. Around her, children stir tiny fingers clutching at the thick air, wide eyes blinking at a world already alive with risk. A juvenile reaches for her arm, instinctively, not as a plea, but as a tether proof that he is not alone. Hunger pushes them forward. They move in rhythm, a loose arc across the plain, their steps soft but purposeful. The matriarch leads, but it is not authority that binds them. It is necessity. Each member depends on the other. The young learn by imitating the strong, protect by instinct, the injured rely on patience. When a child stumbles, the group halts as one. A juvenile extends a hand, pulling the child upright before they move again. There is no word for family here, no spoken vow, but every act is survival stitched into flesh. A river appears gleaming under the rising sun. The tribe approaches with caution, nostrils flaring at the scent of crocodile ears, straining for the splash of danger. They cluster together, forming a living wall of bodies, the smallest in the center. Stones are tossed into the water, first ripples spreading wide. Only when silence returns do they edge closer, dipping cracked hands into the current. Water drips across chin's chest, ground a blessing disguised as sustenance. Danger comes suddenly always. A rustle in the tall grass, a flash of tawny hide. A predator lurks, muscles coiled. The band freezes. Eyes lock on the matriarch, though no command is spoken. She steps forward, broad shoulders squared, body arched low. Behind her, two adults gather stones, gripping them so tight, veins bulge across their hands. The juveniles circle the children, forming a shield of trembling bodies. For a moment, the plain is silent, holding its breath. Then, as quickly as it came, the predator slinks away, calculating risk. The band exhales as one. Survival is won not by strength alone, but by cohesion, by the silent agreement that no one is left behind. When night falls, the bond deepens. The tribe huddles within the embrace of a shallow cave, its walls damp with moss, its floor softened by leaves. Flames flicker at the entrance, casting jagged shadows across stone. Children press against their mothers, lulled by the steady rhythm of heartbeat and breath. A juvenile traces patterns in ash, with a fingertip shapes that vanish as quickly as they are born. Overhead, the stars stretch endless, a reminder that this fragile cluster of bodies is their only anchor in a vast, indifferent world. Here in these shared silences, the essence of family is forged. It is not chosen. It is not bound by law. It is survival, raw and unshakable, written in the way one body leans into another, in the way fear is halved, when held together, in the way life itself depends on bonds invisible but unbreakable. At dawn, the plain breathes again, a curtain of mist curling across the grasses, as if the earth itself exhales. The tribe stirs within their shallow cave, their bodies stiff from cold stone, but alive with purpose. The matriarch emerges first, stooping low to sniff the air. Her movements are not commands but signals read and mirrored by the others. Behind her, the group follows a ripple of flesh and bone, flowing into the pale light. Hunger gnaws deeper today. The children's bellies are sunken ribs tracing fragile ridges beneath thin skin. Yet their eyes track their elders with trust, as if survival is not a question, but a promise, carried by the group. The hunt is not one of weapons, but of patience. The tribe moves along a dry riverbed, its cracked floor scattered with bones polished by sun and time. They stoop often, fingers sifting through dirt eyes searching for roots, berries, insects. A juvenile overturns a stone, revealing a nest of crawling termites. With a sharp cry, he plunges a stripped stick inside, pulling it out thick with writhing food. The others gather, sharing quickly the bitter taste, swallowed without hesitation. In this moment, survival is not individual, but communal. Each mouthful distributed, each discovery widened to include the whole. But hunger alone does not shape them. Bonds are tested when fear enters. Midday heat presses down and shadows shorten when the rustle returns this time. Not one predator, but many. Hyenas circle at a distance, laughter drifting across the air like cruel echoes. The matriarch stands tall, shoulders tense, eyes locked. Adults gather stones heavy and jagged, while juveniles push the youngest behind them. The circle forms instinctively, a living fortress of bodies pressed close. When one hyena darts forward, a stone flies, striking earth with a sharp crack. Another follows, then another, until the predators retreat into the brush, mocking cries fading into distance. The silence after danger is not relief, it is bonding. The tribe tightens, touching shoulders, brushing hands. A child presses her head against the matriarch's thigh, small fingers gripping skin. For her safety is not abstract. It is flesh and bone, the warm presence of kin. These gestures, subtle and wordless, are the fabric of prehistoric family. As dusk falls, they find shelter beneath a stand of baobabs, their swollen trunks rising like pillars against the sky. Here the group builds a bed of leaves weaving branches to soften the ground. The matriarch lowers herself first, signaling rest. Children curl against her, their breathing uneven at first, then steady. Adults take turns watching the horizon, their silhouettes framed by a horizon ablaze with orange fire. Above the stars flare into brilliance. In the darkness, fear does not vanish. It is transformed. The family bond becomes a shield, stronger than stone. Each heartbeat blends into another, a rhythm of survival that carries through the night. Where one fails, another rises. Where one falters, another steadies. This is kinship, not as choice but as fate, a net of bodies and spirits bound by the simplest truth, together they endure. Morning breaks with no warning, the sky igniting in streaks of red and gold, as if the world itself is set aflame. The tribe rises from its bed of leaves weary, yet bound by the night's closeness. Today's journey stretches further toward the distant hills where fruiting trees may wait. The matriarch leads again, though age bends her frame. Her scars are maps of past survival, and in her silence the others read guidance more ancient than words. Each step is more than travel. It is continuity, a thread pulled tight through generations. The landscape shifts. Grass gives way to scattered stone-jagged ridges littered with volcanic shards. The youngest stumble feet cut on the sharp ground. One cries out the sound, piercing the quiet. Instantly, the group halts. A juvenile scoops the child up, lifting him onto narrow shoulders. No complaint rises, no hesitation. The burden is shared because survival demands it. Family here is not measured in comfort, but in sacrifice, in the instinct to carry weight beyond one's own. By midday, they reach a grove. Fruits hang thick above green and hard. The juveniles climb their small frames, swinging between branches. They shake the fruit loose, and those below gather, quickly cracking husks, passing pulp hand to hand. It is not feast, but reprieve, a brief abundance that quiets hunger. Laughter, rare fragile bubbles from the children as juice stains their faces. In that sound lies something beyond survival. The first echoes of joy tied to kinship, proof that even here, even now, family nurtures more than the body. But balance is always fragile. As they feed, a shadow approaches a rival band, lean and desperate, their eyes, hollow movements, sharp. Tension thickens like storm air. Two groups face each other, mirrored in hunger, mirrored in fear. The matriarch raises her chin, standing between her kin and the strangers. For a moment, the plain holds its breath. Then a fruit is dropped, not thrown, but offered. The rival hesitates, snarls low, then withdraws. No blood is shed, but the cost of family is vigilance, the ever-present line between protection and loss. The day wanes. The tribe begins the long trek back toward shelter. Children, tired and heavy, cling to the adults' hips. The sky darkens, stars piercing through the fading light. As they settle once more in their cave, the matriarch gathers the smallest against her chest, her arms enclosing them in a fortress of flesh. Around her, the group forms a circle, each body a barrier, each breath part of a greater whole. Fire flickers weakly, but it is not flame that secures them. It is togetherness, stronger than predators, storms, or famine. Family here in prehistory is no abstraction. It is survival's purest form, born not from law or custom, but from necessity carved in blood and bone. These bonds, wordless, unchosen yet unbreakable, are the foundation upon which all later societies rest. Compare this to today, where walls, laws, and contracts define families, and yet isolation seeps in. In prehistory, family was the difference between life and death. Today, it risks becoming something else, an option, a fragile idea. And so the question lingers, are our families stronger now, surrounded by comfort, or weaker, fractured by distance? Could we endure as they did, bound, not by choice, but by survival? Or has modern life replaced the raw power of kinship with walls too thin to hold against the chaos outside?